Good morning, everyone. As always, you can turn on your cameras. I like seeing people's faces. For those who tried last week, again, I apologize. Nothing like technical difficulties and the internet going down right when it's supposed to start. So got people coming in. I like looking at the gallery and seeing everybody. Today's topic isn't necessarily really fancy, but it is one that's asked a lot. And then it's a very short topic, so I am going to go over some of the CMS rules again and just kind of clarify some of the things I've seen, some of the stuff that's going out. A couple more people coming in. Where's my chat? There we go. Here's the upcoming topics on July 20th. We're going to talk about the refunds, the premium payments, when that happens, when that doesn't happen. And in conjunction with that is what to do, particularly during open enrollment. This has come up a few times in my years of doing this, where somebody is behind on their payment in November, December, and now they're looking to enroll for January. And how is that handled? I don't know if you know this, but if you have a tax credit, they have a significantly long grace period. They actually have a really long grace period. So we'll talk about that because that does end up affecting the way tax or their behind payments are, reimbursements, things like that. So we're going to talk about that next week. And then July 27th, newborns. How to handle that the most effective way possible. It's one of those topics I see repeatedly. People are asking, how do I do this? And so I'm going to show you just, it's easy. Don't overthink too much because it's much easier than you think. This is one of those, remember, this is a stupid system. You are smarter than the system. It is not smart. We have all these wonderful smartphones that like are intuitive and they think they try and tell us what they think we're going to say. This system is not that. This is not a system. So is anybody else not hearing me?
We can hear you. I hear you fine.
Okay, so Melissa might be on your end. Check your speaker. And as I said at the very beginning, feel free to turn on your cameras. I love seeing faces. It's a lot easier to talk to. All right, we are just 1 minute past. For August agenda, I actually only have one topic that I know I'm going to do. So I would like to know what you guys would like to talk about. Now, September is going to be very much about open enrollment, how to renew people, how to handle this, some of kind of just best practices, how I do it. You can certainly make it your way of doing it. I'm not saying mine's the only way to do it. I give you ideas. You can certainly copy me if you want. I have been doing this a long time. Every year, I'm just trying to make it better. I've just gotten more and more efficient each year because that's kind of the issue with the ACA is being efficient. So those ones will be in August, very much in September. October, November, December, you're going to be kind of on your own. We have a couple in October and then there's just a cutoff because I personally have like 600 individuals to get through, plus I have support staff to help, or other agents to help them get theirs through. So November, December, I'm here for questions, but we won't be having these calls. But outside of what to do for open enrollment, I want to know what is it that you guys want to talk about. You can put them in the chat. You can email me.
I actually have a question.
Sure. What's up, David?
I don't really do much ACA. And one of my Medicare clients and a friend reached out to me. His son was working for a large national bank, largest national bank in the country, and he's losing his job In fact, today might be, or Friday might be his last day. So he's made, say, $50,000
Yep,
from January 1 to July the 15th. But from July 15th to the rest of this year, in theory, he could make zero. Now, that
correct.
won't be right because he will be getting unemployment compensation. And, I mean, that counts as income. So, but anyhow, I didn't know, on the income field, for the year, between what he's already made and unemployment compensation, he might be at 60, 70 grand. But
Right.
between now and year end, he might only be at, 10 or 20 grand. So anyhow, I don't know how to quite handle the income question, and he doesn't want Medicaid. So I
He
don't want to
wouldn't
use the
qualify.
word lie. We'll spiff,
Yeah,
misunderstand or whatever,
he
but
wouldn't
we need
qualify
to
for
pick a
Medicaid.
figure. I mean, if the answer should be zero, or whatever his unemployment compensation comes to, then, we'll add a few bucks to make sure he qualifies for, from a Medicaid standpoint. I mean, to get off of, Medicaid. He is, I think the boy's 30, 31, 32. I'd have to look it back up. And he is in Illinois, if that matters.
No, so it's household income for the entire year. Remember, this is an application for tax credit with the IRS. They don't care when you get this insurance. So he wouldn't qualify for Medicaid. If he's already made 50,000, he's already way beyond. You have to make less than 13,000, less than 14,000. So he wouldn't qualify for Medicaid unless he doesn't have a job for the next 3 months. They might. So it's the whole year's household income. So, let's just say we know 100% he made 50,000. Absolutely. And then estimate what his unemployment's going to be, and then say, all right, you should be making around 60,000 or 65. Put it in as that. And if he can afford that, great, leave it as is. And then say you get a job, anything changes, you let me know. So you have to do the entire household's income for the entire year, not from when they get the insurance. Remember, think of it like a child tax credit. That's the one I always think of. A baby born January 1st and December 31st, you get the exact same amount. The IRS doesn't prorate when you make your money. They just want to know from January to December, what is it?
But even though the documents he's going to get, and it gets reported to the IRS, is he's only going to have Obamacare for 6 months.
No, he's going to have a tax credit for the entire year. You have to remember, this isn't about health insurance. This is the tax credit, and the IRS does not prorate. How much is he going to make for the entire year of 2023?
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically just get, your last W-2, what's that? And how much are you getting from unemployment? Multiply by that, by how many weeks are left in the year, add the two up, and see where we are from a tax credit standpoint.
Yep. I looked at whatever his gross is on his last pay stub, not so much W-2, his last pay stub. And then, what is his unemployment calculation going to be? And that's the total. Okay. And if they absolutely can't make that because they just have no money, say, well, I can go less. We don't have to count unemployment right now, but you are going to have to pay that back at tax time. If I say you make 50,000 and then when you file your taxes at 60, the IRS is going to say, well, you owe us that difference.
Yeah, and the boy lives on his own, but he's single. Lives on his own, but between making 50 grand and being, he ought to have enough money to pay for it, I guess is what I'm saying. And if worse comes to worse, daddy would step in and slip him a couple $100 a month.
If he never goes to the doctor and it seems too expensive,
the boy
could be the short-term person.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things.
Actually, they even asked. That'd be another question. They even asked about would he be eligible for a catastrophic plan?
Yeah, so that's going to be, I think I'm going to talk about that in August as well, because short terms, I really want you to understand how they work. Not every state has them, and states are somewhat differently. They are brilliant and can be used in the right situation. Short terms are amazing. They're not garbage plans. It kind of bothers me that Biden's administration right now is calling them that. The fixed indemnity plans can cause issues. Short terms can cause issues, but if people understand what they are, then it doesn't. But we will talk about short terms a little bit later. But David, if you want to send me an email, we can chat a little bit more just for this guy and let you know. So All right, we're going to talk a little bit about today. The coverage ends mid-month, what to do. And I'm going to put in the chat for those who weren't here earlier, the upcoming agenda for next week and the week after, again, is just going to be in the chat. So today I wanted to talk about when the coverage ends mid-month. So this is somebody who loses their job and they're told your employment ends right now, or they're 26 years old and they are, it does happen. They're 26 years old and they immediately lose coverage. I don't assume that they get to keep that 26-year-old, that 26-year-old gets to keep their coverage through the entire month, because that is not a guarantee. It's common. I write group insurance, and when I write group insurance, I always ask for that because, yeah, this 26-year-old, give them a little bit of time. People lose their jobs. It's immediately they lost their coverage. When that happens, it's usually because the insurance at their job is being paid ahead of time or behind. So if they're taking money out this week for next month, okay, they're going to keep their insurance for the month. But if that company is pulling the money kind of as is, then they lose their coverage immediately. If you go in the marketplace, if you've done this at all, you realize there's only one start date, the first of the month. So now you have a person whose coverage ended December 12th and they can't get coverage till January 1st. What do you do? There are a couple ways of doing it. If they have COBRA, that's their first question. The first question you need to ask, is COBRA being offered? COBRA does not have to be offered if it's a small employer, and they don't have to offer COBRA. Now, if they're 50 plus, they're a large employer, medium-sized to large employer, they do have to offer COBRA. It's the rule. But if they're a group of 5, they don't have to offer COBRA. But if they say, yes, COBRA is an option, but it's really expensive, you tell them, don't pay it yet. Just wait. If something happens between that December 10th and December 31st, and it's major, you're going to pay that 1 month of premium, which back pays, and have it covered. If nothing happens, that's fine. January 1st, you start. I've even had a couple people float, as we call it, floating COBRA. They lost their job or their coverage ends October 31st. And they don't want to pay a premium for November and December. Maybe they made too much and the tax credit really isn't there, but COBRA is really expensive. So they want to float COBRA. The way COBRA works is COBRA is an option that goes to them, typically mailed out. They receive it roughly 30 days after they lost the coverage. And the letter says, all right, you have another 30 days to decide if you want this. If you want it, you're going to pay for 2 months. You're going to pay for the one that first month, that second month, and then often you have to say, I want it for 3 months, and you're paying 3 months all at once. There's no reason to pay for it if you don't need it, but it's there just in case. So that's that floating COBRA. You hear people talk about float COBRA. It's actually kind of nice because honestly, if somebody's really healthy and they don't need it and maybe the marketplace is too expensive, and why start with a brand new deductible and max out of pocket for 2 months? Why risk it? And maybe they don't qualify for a short-term plan or they don't want to, and they want to float that COBRA. It's a completely acceptable practice. And if they have a major car accident, paying 2 months worth of COBRA is going to be worth it, right? They were in the hospital, they had x-rays, they had MRIs. I had a lady laugh, she said, I'm gonna just pin on my chest a note. If in car accident, pay the COBRA premium. She told her kids, just in case, she left the envelope on her refrigerator. Now, I don't recommend people do that for those 2 months, but it is something they can do. It's called floating COBRA. And it really is the best option when their coverage ends in the middle of the month. They come to you in January or whatever, March 3rd, and their coverage is ending March 17th. Well, okay, just float it and we'll get you April 1st. So that's if they have COBRA. If they do not have COBRA, it's just done. That's usually the 26-year-olds or, again, a small company where they're paying kind of in the rears for that health insurance. And as soon as you leave your coverage, they're done. That one's a little bit trickier. So option 1 is a short-term plan. Now, short terms are typically 30 days. I will see if I can find that, but if you look at the COBRA documentation, Jill, I see you said, can I provide direct links on floating COBRA documentation? Look at, if you research COBRA, it tells you how long they have to decide whether they want COBRA. And there may be some HR people who love to press them. Are you going to take COBRA? Are you going to take COBRA? those people can say, well, I'd like to get the COBRA documents. Can you have the insurance company send me the COBRA documents? So you can find that with COBRA, because COBRA is a federal, is something that was done federally. So that's pretty easy to find. If they don't got, again, if they don't have COBRA and you've got that short term and they qualify for short term, they don't really want to risk that up. That is something that I would recommend. A short term, it's going to be 30 days. They might have a little double coverage. That's okay. It's the just in case, it's the catastrophic. They break their leg in that 15 days in between before their new insurance starts. If they have short term, let's just say it starts on the 15th of the month, June 15th through July 15th. And their marketplace starts July 1st, it's okay. It's already done. It's on its way out. As of July 1st, they wouldn't use their short term, they would use the marketplace. Why would you use a different, deductible? It's not cut and dry. Now, there is legislation in the marketplace to have it start mid-month with proof of that coverage ending March 15th, so that they can get it March 16th. There was actually a couple times at the very early parts of the stages of the marketplace where that did happen, and it always kind of shocked me, and I was like, sweet, let's just do it. But it can happen. So it's in legislation and it's probably going to change. But as many of you have noticed, there's no documentation for special enrollment right now, right? You say somebody loses coverage and they're just like, come aboard. So I don't expect that to happen and change until they turn that back on, which at the earliest is probably not until next year after May. That's when the Medicaid rollback is supposed to be finished, is May of 2024. So I don't think we're going to see too much of that until they turn that proof of coverage ending. So the other thing you can do, and I have been doing this for a long time, because again, we have a system that we have to think for it. We have to manually do sometimes the things it needs to do. So someone comes into your office ahead of time and they're turning 26 on March 13th, but they tell you this in February. I go, all right, we're going to get you coverage March 1st. You may be losing your group coverage March 15th, but we're going to turn you on to the marketplace. So we say, yes, they're losing coverage February 28th so that they have coverage March 1st. If you need to use it, still use your group insurance through the end of March 15th, but then as of March 16th, when your group coverage is ended because you turned 26 or you lost your job, then you start using the marketplace. It's not a perfect system. There's no checks on this one. There should be some checks and balances. There really isn't. And I have done it for many people through the years because I always remember, why was the marketplace created? To help people get affordable insurance. I'm helping them get affordable insurance when they need it. It costs the state, it costs taxpayers way more money to have uninsured people than to have somebody who's got 15 days of double coverage. So you're doing what the system is supposed to do. We're manually doing it. The system, they want to do it. That's actually why that legislation is. They want it to be starting when their coverage ends. It's just the system isn't smart enough yet. For them to rewrite the code is not really happening right now. And it's partly, I think it really is because of the whole SEP thing and not proving that you had coverage. So until they can do that, you kind of have to do it for them. Think a little bit ahead of time. And I just say, all right, use your group coverage till the 15th, and then your new plan is already started. So they do have some double coverage. Nobody's ever been penalized for that. And worst case scenario, if they did, it's only a 15 days. If they're like, well, hey, you had this double coverage for 15 days, it's going to be a prorated amount. It's still better to have had insurance than to have none. Does that make sense? Does that you're kind of making it manually do what it's supposed to do. I see, Sharon, you asked a question. Aren't there state rules regarding when group insurance ends? I think in Texas, the insurance always goes to the end of the month, no matter if they had middle employment in the middle of the month. I don't know. I can see states, so certainly check your state ruling. I know in my state, and my state's got quite a few regulations on that, it doesn't. If you do group insurance, that is when you are enrolling somebody in group insurance, it's a question, at least for me. Every time I do it, it says, do you want to have 26-year-olds end on the day of their birthday or at the end of the month? And I don't even ask. I just click at the end of the month. And I've never had an employer say, well, we want to kick them off the day they turn 26. So, but it could be, definitely check your state, because again, states overrule and have those overriding things. If you have a state where you don't have to worry about that, great. But that is a question I can see consistently coming into that question online, where people are like, what do I do? The coverage is ending mid-month. And 26-year-olds, a lot of them, that's where I see it the most. Few employees, it's not as common, but 26, where I'm like, you'll be fine. And it turns out they're not. And that is the nice thing about short-term. Even if you're in a state that only allows short-term for a month or so, 26-year-olds, okay, let me get you that coverage, and it's $100. You know, it's pretty cheap, and they're usually pretty healthy when they're 26. That's when those short terms work well. All right, any other questions before I quickly show you the documentation from the CMS ruling? Thanks, Brian, for letting me know that makes sense. That's the thing, when I don't have a bunch of heads nodding, then I hope I don't know. All right, I'm gonna do a screen share here. I did send this out. This was something I sent out when we talked about CMS way back when. The rules and regulations and things like that. So now this is the CMS. There was something that I sent out that was, see if I have it. It looked like it was a zip drive. It was from CMS and it was the zip drive, and it came with 4 different documents. Appendix A, Appendix B, this is actually C, and then this was the a 4th one. If you want to read the background, there's 7 pages of the consent form. This is going to show you like the background, why they were looking at it. This is going to show you the justification of why the need is there, the information, all that kind of stuff. There's lots of things, payments, no payments or gifts will be provided, you know, confidentiality, sensitive questions, all this kind of stuff, and who this was going to apply to. And it there's this kind of the whole thing, and it's kind of a bunch of the legalese. But if you like that stuff, here's where you go. Appendix A is the page 1 of their legal. They're saying, here's the legal disclosure that you have to get, and here's the purpose statement. And then here is the CMS model consent form for marketplace agents and brokers. If you use just this, you are fine. But this is the bare minimum. I always feel like we should be above the bare minimum. The only thing I had to change on my stuff that I've been doing for years was giving them consent right here. I understand that my consent remains in effect until I revoke it, and I may revoke it or modify it by, and then you had to tell them how they could revoke it, by email, by written statement, by verbal agreement, recorded verbal agreement, however you want to say it, you can. So that was the only thing I really had to add. And then I put our agent producer's number on there. So you could use this. This is perfectly fine. You only have to get this consent when you are enrolling somebody. Once they're going to become your client, you do not need this consent to send out quotes. You don't have to get this to just talk to them. So it's not, this isn't quite like on the Medicare side. This is, they have said, yes, I like your quote. Yes, I want to do this. I want you to be my agent. That's when you need to get this. I edited this for myself. We only really have one, but I have the name of the agency. So I took this and edited it, and I put it on a website called Form Doctor. Now, I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not getting paid, but I was looking for a HIPAA compliant, easy way to do this, especially by text, because nowadays people are more and more into text. So Form Doctor is formdr.com. You can go in, and it's very affordable. They have a consent form. It's already kind of pre-filled. Well, I took that and then I put this in there instead. I edited it and I added it. And I can send this consent form by text. I can send it by email. the person's name's on there, especially if they make appointments with you. That's kind of a great one. Hey, okay, let's enroll next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. I'm going to send you a text to get permission to be your agent. This protects me and it protects you in case somebody tries to, to scam you. We haven't had anybody who's said, no, I'm not doing that. We send them that text, it comes back, we get it, their appointment date's on there, and now I have the signed date. And then I attach it to my CRM to them so that if I ever get audited, I can pull this up. Now, the CRM, the agent, CMS is saying you need this one time. It's not saying that you have to have this every single year. But when I was reading the appendix here, if you can see this, there's 529 pages of here. I'm not saying you have to read it all, but this is just showing you every public person, every comment. So this person, there's Joel, this was his comment. This was a submission from this person. So you can kind of see during the public submission when they were asking people what they thought, there's 529 pages of agents, I'm assuming mostly agents, that said, this is what we think. This one right here is only 6 pages. And this was the one I thought was rather interesting. So it's, here's an example. The comment, somebody said it's a burden for agents to do this. One commenter suggested we do not estimate these costs properly. This commentator believed we're underestimating the burden estimates as much as 6 times. So somebody was saying the cost for us as agents is too much of a burden. And this is the response by CMS. So you can kind of, I would go through these 6 pages, it's not very much, and kind of see what the thinking was behind the rulings. Several commenters stated HHS should be flexible in monitoring compliance and the new requirements related and all this kind of stuff. So as stated above, we have not mandated a specific method that agents, brokers, and web brokers need to do. They're kind of giving us some free rein on this. We do not plan on asking for consumer documentation from every agent, broker, or web broker utilizing the exchange. We are particularly concerned about agents, brokers, and web brokers that after investigation seem to have extreme patterns of non-compliance and fraudulent behavior. This sentence should put most of your minds at ease. They're not trying to go after you. They're trying to go after the call centers, the fake email, the scamming that's happening on Facebook. That's who this is going after. So don't panic. Don't be like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? They're not going after you. Now, just like any other regulation, they could certainly call back at any time. But if you have shown, you have emails from your clients, you have paperwork, here's a piece of paper that somebody filled out and signed, you're showing that you have done your best due diligence, you're not going to get screwed. So don't panic if you don't have this form consistently right now and you're starting to figure out how to do it. You're okay. So that's the first one, is just get that CMS basic. I mean, they said, here's the most minimal one you can use. Go ahead and use that. The other one that I am using consistently, and I'm going to do this every year, we're going to get this permission one time, this permission one that I just showed you. I send that text out. I just need that once. But every year, the burden that they're asking us as agents to share is that we have clearly told our clients the ramifications of the tax credit. You said your income was 20,000. Do you know what happens if it's 50? Do you understand at tax time what's going to happen? So every year at the end of the year, and I know I sent this out as well, but I'm going to show it again because some of you are newer on here. Every year at the end of open enrollment, or every time I enroll in somebody, I give them the exact same form. All of my clients, all of my agents get this, give this to everybody, and it has made a world of difference. No client of mine is going to say, I didn't know. It's not possible because I send this to everybody. So here is what my form looks like. I call it the marketplace document. I have my logo on there, obviously, but you can put a logo at just 2023 information for, and I just type in the name. It can be an individual, or I may say Smith family. The application ID, So every year they get that new application ID, estimated household income. I take it right from what they told me, write what's on the application. I write what the tax credit is and the insurance company they signed up for, the premium they're going to pay, the customer service number. There we go. All right, found them. The customer service number, which is right off of Health Sherpa, the number they need to call. The member number, I leave blank because we don't know what that is often. The due date of the premium, the effective date, and if it's requesting documents. And if it is, the due date of those documents. I will list all the documents, proof of citizenship, proof of income, whatever it is, and whether they've paid that first month's premium with me, and if I set up that auto pay. I know some carriers let you set up auto pay right away and some don't. But so if they didn't, I didn't. But if I was on the Molina one and it sets up auto pay, I say, hey, Molina, we're paying your first month's premium. Molina would like to know if you'd like to set up auto pay. And they say, yes, I would. All right, I'm going to click that. Or we paid first month's premium. Great. I try very hard to always pay first month's premium if possible. If not, then I say, no, you didn't. And then here's all the important information they need to know to contact me before calling the marketplace. Please don't call the marketplace. I tell every client, in fact, I have never told my clients to call the marketplace outside of having to get something fixed in the rears. That's the only thing I can't fix. I can't fix something that's in the past. We have to go to the marketplace. Otherwise, I don't want them to call the marketplace. The marketplace messes things up. Telling them to ignore all those emails from healthcare.gov, letting them understand how it works. You can adjust your income at any time throughout the year. So there's the important information they need. If I send this to them every year, and then I did update one that actually now has a signature on it, so that if they're in my office, they're signing it, I can actually send it out. If I send that every year, 5 years from now, if something comes up and they're like, well, did you have permission? And I go, yep, here's that one that I originally asked permission. I've never gotten them to say that they don't want me to be their agent. And here's the thing I've sent them every year. CMS is not going to come at me. All right, I'm gonna look at some of the comments. You stole my work, sending out documents. Absolutely, do it. That's why I'm sharing this. I mean, why reinvent the wheel 13 times, right? Just go ahead. Anything that I have that you're like, that's what I want, absolutely do it. Dave, I can absolutely send that out to you if you send me an email. Chris at next step-insurance.com. Send that out. Shoot me an email, David, and I will send that right back out to you. Can I post one page in next week's webinar? The one page, my marketplace document, Melissa, if that's what you want, again, just send me an email and I'll send it to you. They are after the scumbags. They're after the people that are trying to, I don't understand. Why is it worth stealing clients for 20 bucks? Like, it doesn't even make sense. But this is their first step into going after that. I know there's some agents who think they're not going hard enough, but hey, one step at a time, they're at least paying attention now. Now there is something. There wasn't anything before. Do I think that if a client complains to the insurance carrier about their agent, it could open a CMS investigation? It could. What has happened, the reason CMS is even paying attention, because we've been around for 10 years. Okay, this isn't the first, it's not like this is new. The complaints started happening because of the income. That's really what started happening. So people were signing up last year. They got some, they saw some, hey, get your insurance for nothing. Oh, that sounds interesting. They entered some data, and these call centers were just enrolling people. And it said in very fine print, because I've seen it, we are enrolling you at the lowest amount to qualify, because that's how they're getting their SEP, right? They're putting them below that 150 percentile. It is up to you. It's your responsibility to update us your income in the next 30 days. But it was a pretty small print. People didn't see it, and they went in. So they enrolled this person at $14,000, and then they filed their taxes, and they made $40,000. And suddenly they have to pay back the IRS $3,000, $4,000, and they don't have that because they were never actually told how this works. That's what started the CMS ruling. That's why it's very much about, if you read what the CMS is actually trying to get is, one, yes, I'm the agent and this client wants me to be their agent. But the second part is that they understand what they're enrolling in. So if you're talking to your clients and you're emailing them and you're saying, okay, remember, here's the income, then you're not going to have that problem. They can just say, I don't like you, I didn't ask to be signed up for this. But do you have proof that you signed them up for what they asked? The email that they said, hey, yep, sign me up for option number 2, and you've got your option number 2 there. Do you send out this, like this document that I send out? Did they do it themselves? Hey, my note says they auto-enrolled themselves. So I don't think you're going to see too much. I'm not saying they can't find some reason, because there's always somebody, but it's really about the income, because that's when it started hurting. When people had to go back and pay all of this money back. That's what the CMS is doing. Gail says, what do you put in for the payment due date when you write someone on the last day of the month? I just say ASAP. So if it's less than 25 days, I say ASAP, or I actually say, let's make that payment now. I don't ask them, would you like to make a payment? I'm like, okay, we've got you enrolled, let's make that payment now. So because it has to be done by the end of the month. Yes, they can have 10 days into the first of the month, but then somebody forgets and the payment didn't go through, and then they suddenly lose insurance. And that has happened. We just had somebody yesterday. That's exactly what happened. They wrote a check and it never got cashed, and now they're a month and a half in and they don't have insurance, and they have a scan for a mass on their liver. They can't wait until next month. So if it's if you're past the 20th of the month, just say, let's make that payment now. 90% of the time, they're going to say, okay. If they can't, because it can happen, oh, today's the 20th, I don't get paid till Friday. All right, I'm going to call you, or I'm going to have my assistant call you, because it's really important they make that first payment. They don't have that 3-month grace period for that first one. They need to get it in right away. John, is this consent required in all states? So I have heard that it's not required in all states, but all states have some kind of consent. So it might be part of the penny state. So certainly look at what your state is requiring, but I have seen that it doesn't necessarily have to be part of the state exchange. But is it going to hurt you to have this? No, because if the state exchange hasn't caught up on that, it's going to. They're going to start copying it. So if you start doing this ahead of time, you're going to be ahead of the curve. Are you having them sign the health plan summary? Yes, Jill, I actually do. I have them sign that. I actually form doctor. They don't have this form, right? I mean, they're really actually made for doctors, chiropractors, and gynecologists, all kinds of stuff. I actually took this form that I just showed you and gave it to them, and they made it for me as a digital form, and it cost me $20. I'm like, oh, sold. I don't have to do this myself. Done. And I gave them all my forms, my intake form, my income form, my drug prescription form, and this form. So now we can send it out. Josh, who's on here, John, my other agents, they will fill this out, and then they just send it up and they email it out to the person. So yes, I do have them sign it electronically, but if they're in the office, I have them sign it. Wet signature right there. I know I'm one of the weirdos. We have people in our office versus Zoom. But if they're in my office, I have them sign it right there. It's when they started throwing free money at people. Yeah, the call centers. It messed things up. There absolutely is a ton of insurance plans that are free, but it's not for everybody. If there are 3 people in a household, but 2 are on the Medicare and they do not need insurance, do you still use the household income? Yes, if they are a tax household income, yes. So you have a 65-year-old and a 66-year-old, and they happen to have a 23-year-old college student. It's whole household income. But that's when they should talk to their accountant. Maybe it's better to have that 23-year-old on their own. They have to be a taxable household income. Yep, assume the sale. I mean, just take that payment right away. I do make the payments on Health Sherpa. Take a copy when the payment goes through. It'll say, here's the receipt, here's the proof of payment, it gives you a code. I always take a screenshot, I print it off, I give it to my client, I put it in my CRM, I email it to the client, like make sure multiple people have it. That way, if somebody, I've heard Oscar, there's been some issues, and better, oh, we never got payment because it doesn't work. Well, they can't blame Health Sherpa. The Health Sherpa link was a link the insurance company gave Health Sherpa. Health Sherpa was not pulling these links out of their butt. It was a link given to them by Oscar, by Ambetter, by United Healthcare. So yes, I make that payment right there. Also tell your people I'm making this payment. You're going to start seeing emails asking for payment. Don't worry, it takes about 7 days for them to see the payment. It's been processed, and tell healthcare.gov that it's been effectuated. So just kind of remind them it takes time. Same with the zero, right? You guys have all seen it. There's no payment needed. It's a $0 premium. And it's like, make this payment, make this payment. That's how I use them. That's one of my examples of how this is not a smart system. If it was a smart system, it wouldn't ask for a $0 payment. Just say, yep, ignore that. It just takes a while. It takes about a week. Gail's saying, how do you make the first payment if you just completed the application? Yep, on Health Sherpa. So the Health Sherpa, the permission, they did build something in, Brian. It's for people who self-enroll. You can look, Health Sherpa's got that out there. They sent over, I don't know what Insure is doing, but it probably is going to be somewhat similar. That is basically saying you give so-and-so permission to be your agent. The negative thing of that permission is that Health Sherpa has it. I don't have a copy of it. So if you have somebody that you're sending that link to, which is a perfectly wonderful way for doing renewals, pay attention when the Health Sherpa link comes back to you that says, hey, so-and-so signed up for a plan. I still fill out this form. I still send it to them and they sign it. Or they're going to, hopefully. But yeah, we're not sure exactly how that's going to work because it's still very gray. CMS is really kind of leaving it up to you how to do it. But I would protect my butt. I'm not expecting Health Sherpa to protect my butt. So I'm still going to send out this form. I'm still going to say, hey, Bob, I see that you enrolled with Anthem Blue Cross. It's a great plan. Here's your premium. Here's the form. Any questions? I'm your agent. Here's what I am. So I'm still showing an email that I sent out that I'm doing some of that. I tell Jill, I tell them it's to protect them. And it really is. This is, the more they understand what they're doing, the less likely they're going to fall for those scams. I'm going to send you this form. You know what, we've talked about this. If you could sign it, that's going to protect you so that nobody's going to steal your information. And if it happens, we have proof that you didn't want them to do it. I mean, I haven't had that issue. We've had a few college kids. Mom and dad came in to sign them up and we're like, can't sign them up, not anymore. I need them to sign. I need them to give me permission. So that's when I text that permission, that CMS, that bare minimum one, and go, all right, I can't enroll them until they sign it. Okay, so mom goes, hey, you're gonna get this text, sign it really quick. They sign it. That's the bare minimum. So even if I send out this form and they don't sign it, it's okay because I got the permission on the front end. Do not enroll people without that permission at the front end. Get that CMS, say, okay, we're ready to enroll. I'm gonna send you this right now. I mean, that text takes 13 seconds. Oh, I got it. And they sign it. You see that they did it. Now I can enroll you. This is protecting you from unscrupulous people. If an agent, you ever work with an agent who doesn't want you you get this permission, they're not a good agent. Like you, it is for their protection. It is also for ours, absolutely. And you can say that, but it's for them too. So I haven't had anybody who won't sign it at all as they're coming in. In fact, we tend to send them out even for first enrollment, people coming in for quote. And if they're like, oh, I don't want to sign this yet. Okay, you don't have to, it's just a quote, but we'll need permission to be your agent if you decide to enroll. Yep, Gina, it is on Form Doctor, you can send it by text and they can actually sign on their phone. Make sure they have a phone that's not a flip phone. So, yes, Georgia, there's going to be some states that are going. Eventually, I think all the states will have their own exchange. It's going to be one of the two. Either it'll all be, each state has their own, or the state exchanges will come off. But you'll see as it happens how that's going to go. Yep, you can text that form through Form Doctor. It's really great. You can email it too. If somebody's like, oh, I don't have a smartphone, could you email it to me? Sure, if they've got an iPad, you know, and they want to do it there. So yeah, that last birthday at the end of the month. So you can't start ACA in the middle of the month. It has to start on August 1st. So we can, Cobra is a weird thing for those 26-year-olds. If it's a, 26-year-old, I would probably do short-term, Dave, for that. So, well, we are over. Any questions? Again, email me your suggestions for future. I've only got a couple in August, and then September and October will be the open enrollment. I appreciate you guys so much. It just blows my mind that I've got 45 plus people on here, and I just appreciate it. Any questions, let me know. I'm gonna stop the recording. There we go.